earthquakes in recent days and began around 4:45 p.m. local time, according to the agency. The USGS said at 10:30 a.m. a magnitude 5 earthquake south of the Pu'u volcano cone triggered rock falls and potential collapse into a crater on the volcano. Hazards included potential lethal concentrations of sulfur dioxide gas in the zone, as well as methane blasts that could propel large rocks and debris in adjacent areas. Governor David Ige had activated the archipelago State National Guard troops and told residents to pay heed to warnings from the Civil Defense Agency. Hawaii's Emergency Management Agency said a local community center was open to residents impacted by the threat. USGS has had raised the volcano alert in the area from a watch to a warning, reporting that new ground cracks were discovered in the late afternoon. The magnitude 5 earthquake in Hawaii has triggered a large lava flow from the Kilauea volcano. Thousands of people in the Lilan Estate section of the island are being told to evacuate. More from Ron Hamilton.
The Kilauea volcano eruption is now well underway, causing nearly 1,700 residents to flee their homes this evening in a mandatory evacuation, as fountains of lava erupted from underground. Leilani Estates subdivision is located in the direct path of Kilauea's East Rift Zone. Shortly before 5 p.m. local time, lava was confirmed at the surface in the eastern end of the subdivision. Witnesses have also seen white-hot vapor and blue fumes emanating from the ground, some even on the roadways. Residents of the lower Puna district have also been put on alert and urged to review individual, family, and business emergency plans. To recall, the Puna district fell victim to Kilauea's lava flow back in 2014. Hawaii County Civil Defense has been on scene, coordinating efforts, including the mandatory evacuation. Hawaii Governor David Ige, meanwhile, has ordered the activation of the National Guard to provide additional assistance. Earlier in the day, the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center reported a 5.0 magnitude earthquake at 10:31 a.m. off the south flank of Kilauea volcano. However, this earthquake was not large enough to cause a tsunami. On April 30th, the crater within Pu'uo'ou collapsed, and a flurry of low-magnitude earthquakes continued to shake the eastern side of the island. A small fissure opened to the west of the vent on May 1st, but scientists at the U.S. Geological Survey's Hawaiian Volcano Observatory reported that an intrusion of magma had begun moving eastwards toward Highway 130.
We were in the mall.
Gabriel Lopez, my young colleague on the Big Island, managed to get close to the barricades and has this update.
So, some crazy stuff's been happening today. Like this morning, we were in Hilo, and a 5.0 magnitude earthquake struck us. We were in the mall shopping for stuff, and we felt it, and we were like shook, and it was crazy. And so, due to the earthquake, apparently it caused a crack in the ground, and lava's been spewing out. So everybody's being mandatorily evacuated. Due to that, the police has been all over this place. There's been ambulances driving around, road closures. And actually the National Guard has been deployed, and they're helping with the evacuation in Leilani Estates. If anybody's out here wanting to see the lava, just don't. People are trying to evacuate the roads and their houses, and they're going to the shelters in Keao Community Center and Paul Rec Center, I believe. Yeah, so if you want to see the lava, please save it for another day, because you need to respect everybody who needs to evacuate from their houses.
I sure hope things settle down before 3 weeks. That's not good. trying to find out where the lava is actually flowing right now. Supposedly at the bottom side of Leilani Estate, so we'll see where it goes. You're going downhill. Our place is on the left, and I'm hoping it just goes straight. There's some big craters down there, and it'll hopefully fill up those craters. That would be nice, and then stop and everybody can go back to normal.
Big Island residents are being encouraged to sign up for the Hawaii County Civil Defense messages at the hawaiicounty.gov Active Alerts webpage. For more updates on Kilauea, check out the USGS website at volcanoes.usgs.gov. Reporting from Honolulu, Hawaii, this is Ron Hamilton for Eagle News. I am one with 25.
U.S. President Donald Trump confirmed a reimbursement as part of a hush agreement with porn star Stormy Daniels over allegations of a decade-old affair, but he said campaign money wasn't involved. Trump's comments in a series of tweets, which contradicted his earlier denials of knowledge of a payment to Daniels, came after former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, a member of the presidential legal team, said Trump reimbursed his longtime lawyer Michael Cohen for the $130,000 payment to Daniels. The sexual encounter allegedly took place in 2006, for months after Trump's wife Melania gave birth to their son Barron. Cohen's payment was made days before the November 2016 U.S. presidential election, potentially violating campaign financial laws or financing laws. In a burst of tweets, Trump denied the hush money was connected to his campaign, calling it a private agreement. Cohen received a monthly retainer not from the campaign and having nothing to do with the campaign from which he entered into through reimbursement, the non-disclosure agreement involving Daniels, whose real name is Stephanie Clifford. Clifford, who alleges an intimate relationship with Trump from 2006 to 2007, has filed suit in Los Angeles to declare that agreement invalid. The agreement was used to stop the false and extortionist accusations made by her about an affair, despite already having signed a detailed letter admitting that there was no affair, Trump said. Prior to its violation by Ms. Clifford and her attorney, this was a private agreement. Money from the campaign or campaign contributions played no role in this transaction, he wrote, misspelling rule. The Swedish Academy said it would postpone this year's Nobel Literature Prize for the first time in almost 70 years as it is rocked by turmoil over links to a man accused of rape and sexual assault. The prestigious institution was rattled when the testimonies of 18 women in November accused a well-known French culture figure with whom it had close ties of sexual violence or harassment. After failing to contain the fallout, 7 out of total 18 members resigned, including the permanent secretary Sarah Daniels. Its 18 members are technically appointed for life and cannot resign, but they can choose not to participate in its meetings and decisions. According to its statutes, at least 12 members are needed in order to vote in a new member or vote in a new member, triggering a massive headache for the 10 remaining members. We'll be back with more news right after this break.
Is our most important asset, and it should always be a constant effort to seek ways to take care of it. That includes professional medical help from the best available. The Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated is known as one of the most specialized centers in medical services, backed by several experienced physicians in Chinese medicine. At an accuracy rate of 98%, countless patients who visited Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated have already been treated and cured.
Marami po ospital na napuntahan, pero wala rin nangyayari. Somebody introduced me to Manila-Beijing Medical Associated. After 2 treatments, gumanda ang pakiramdam ko.
My friends introduced me Manila-Beijing Medical Associated, and luckily, I got cured. So I sincerely want to thank the doctors of Manila-Beijing Medical Associated.
For the past 30 years, ang dami ko nang na-take na mga gamot. Nothing happened to me. So until one my friend introduced me to Manila-Beijing Medical Associated, you know what? All my illness was cured.
For any health problems or incurable diseases, you can visit Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated, located at 843B Sabino Padilla Street, Binondo, Manila.
Welcome to the garden. A world that recaptures the value of life, creating your moments, kindling your passion, worth reliving over and over. This is your world, your life, your garden.
Landmarks, Linggo, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi.
The death toll from freak storms that hit India climbed above 140 on Friday as people told how they had no time to escape the ferocious winds which tore down homes and toppled walls. Amid warnings of further wild weather, thousands of families spent the night in the open air in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan. They told how 130-kilometer winds carrying choking sand hit so quickly late Wednesday that they had no time to reach safety from falling walls and trees. The dust storms claimed 121 lives in Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, and nearby Uttarakhand and Punjab states, according to latest official tolls. Separately, 21 people were killed by lightning in 2 southern states. Authorities in Uttar Pradesh where 76 died, and Rajasthan, where the storms claimed 39 lives, battled to restore power, clear roads, and help people who lost houses. Iranian Foreign Affairs Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif warns the United States about the nuclear deal and criticizes European states over concessions to the Americans in an English language video posted on YouTube. Take a look.
The U.S. is well advised to finally start honoring its commitments, or it, and only it, will have to accept responsibility for the consequences of not doing so. In the last year or so, we've been told that President Trump is unhappy with the deal. And it now appears that the response from some Europeans has been to offer the United States more concessions from our pocket. We will neither outsource our security, nor will we renegotiate or add on to a deal we have already implemented in good faith. But if the U.S. continues to violate the agreement, or if it withdraws altogether, we will exercise our right to respond in a manner of our choosing. Bluster or threats won't get the U.S. a new deal.
Expect whether or not
Iran warned Thursday it will quit a landmark nuclear deal if President Donald Trump pulls the United States out of the accord, while also criticizing European states over concessions to the Americans. Trump has threatened to abandon the agreement when it comes up for renewal on May 12, demanding his country's European allies fix the terrible flaws or he will reimpose sanctions. The nuclear deal was struck in 2015 between Iran and Britain, China, France, Germany, Russia, and the United States, then led by Barack Obama. UN humanitarian advisor Jean Egeland said millions of civilians are still caught up in the 7-year-old conflict and that the marathon of suffering in the conflict is far from over. Watch this.
As we look back 1 year ago, there were 4.6 million living in hard-to-reach areas, and 625,000 people lived in besieged areas. Today, 2 million people live in hard-to-reach areas, less than half, and 11,000 people live in besieged locations. It is a good thing that people are not anymore living massively in besieged areas, and that much fewer people live in hard-to-reach areas. But when this comes at the cost of horrific battles in heavily populated areas, and when it comes at because of agreements made by a small group of military people and politicians, too often humanitarian concerns and the protection concerns for the civilian population is lost. Idlib is certainly I would say, our worry number one, for the very reason that it is so full of vulnerable civilians. One way of looking at it is that it's 6 times Eastern Ghouta. And there were never 50% internally displaced in Eastern Ghouta. There are 6 times more civilians in Idlib, and they are even more vulnerable. They are living out in the open. They are living in congested displacement camps, crammed in collective centers. They arrive at 2 a.m., sort of every night now, just to find that they can hardly get a bed anywhere offered by the completely overwhelmed humanitarian actors. So we cannot have a war in Idlib. I'm surprised really by those who say that they really want to help protect medical facilities, that they are questioning the whole value of trying to get a deconfliction system up in the Syria war, like we have it in Yemen, we have it in Afghanistan, we have it in Mali and in many other conflicts. If nobody believes in it, then the alternative is actually that we have no deconfliction and just hundreds of attacks, as we have had up until now. But it's not over, and that's what I fear. People think it's sort of over. We've only still got 23% of our humanitarian funding, humanitarian programs funded, and we're now in May. So pledges in Brussels are not committed to programs. There is no cash really available to humanitarian actors as desperate, exhausted people arrive now every day in Italy. there is no money for the operation. So please, please don't leave us before this marathon of suffering is over.
I mean, you've talked about this, but I just want.
Australia's Minister for International Development and Pacific, Senator Concetta Fierravanti-Wells, visited Cotabato City on May 2 to highlight Australia's commitment to supporting peace and stability in Mindanao. Senator Fierravanti-Wells met with the regional governor of Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, the Hon Mujib Hataman, or the Honorable Mujib Hataman, and representatives of non-government organizations and youth leaders. Australia is committed to supporting our friends in the Philippines to prevent the spread of violent extremist ideologies, as said Senator Fierravanti-Wells. The devastation of Marawi City, the loss of life, and forced displacement of people all show the terrible impact that these ideologies have. Australia is working with local partners in Mindanao to provide humanitarian relief to people displaced from Marawi, support the recovery and reconstruction of the city, and promote peace and tolerance in communities. In the last 12 months, Australia has provided over $20 million in development assistance for programs in Mindanao, including for basic education and peace and stability. China on Friday rejected U.S. allegations that Chinese nationals shown military-grade lasers at American pilots in Djibouti, dismissing the claims as inconsistent with facts. Beijing, which operates a naval base in the Horn of Africa country, denied Pentagon accusations that Chinese personnel have targeted U.S. pilots in the country with beams, resulting in minor injuries to airmen and creating the potential for an accident. After careful verification, we have told the U.S. explicitly that the so-called accusations are totally inconsistent with facts, Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Hua Chunying told reporters. Pentagon spokeswoman Dana White said U.S. officials issued a formal diplomatic complaint and demanded Beijing investigate the issue. In one case, 2 pilots on AC-130 cargo plane suffered minor eye injuries as they came in to land at the base in the Horn of African nation. Located at Djibouti International Airport, the U.S. military's Camp Lemonnier base is its only permanent facility in Africa. It is used largely for counter-terrorism operations in East Africa and Yemen. More than 2 tons of crystal methamphetamine were destroyed Friday as Indonesia stepped up its drugs crackdown in one of the biggest such operations of recent years. The Southeast Asian country has some of the world's toughest anti-narcotics laws and imposes the death penalty for trafficking. The crystal meth had been seized from foreign registered ships in 2 separate operations in Indonesian waters near Singapore earlier this year. 4 Taiwanese and 4 Chinese crew members were arrested. Indonesia, the world's most populous Muslim-majority country, has made combating narcotics a top priority and resumed the execution of traffickers in 2015 after an unofficial hiatus. Last month, 8 Taiwanese drug smugglers were sentenced to death. President Widodo has repeatedly defended his tough stance, claiming Indonesia faces a drugs emergency and must act to protect the next generation.
Selamat siang dan selamat pagi, Bapak Ibu peserta, agar segera merapat.
We'll be back with more news right after this break.
Health is our most important asset, and it should always be a constant effort to seek ways to take care of it. That includes professional medical help from the best available. The Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated is known as one of the most specialized centers in medical services, backed by several experienced physicians in Chinese medicine. At an accuracy rate of 98%, countless patients who visited Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated have already been treated and cured.
Marami po ospital na napuntahan, pero wala rin nangyayari. Somebody introduced me to Manila-Beijing Medical Associated. After 2 treatments, gumanda ang pakiramdam ko.
My friends introduced me Manila-Beijing Medical Associated, and luckily, I got cured. So I sincerely want to thank the doctors of Manila-Beijing Medical Associated.
For the past 30 years, ang dami ko nang na-take na mga gamot. Nothing happened to me. So until one my friend introduced me to Manila-Beijing Medical Associated, you know what? All my illness was cured.
For any health problems or incurable diseases, you can visit Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated, located at 843B Sabino Padilla Street, Binondo, Manila.
ASEAN in Focus, Monday to Friday, 2 to 2:30 p.m.
Hong Kong banking giant HSBC said that pre-tax profit dipped 4% to $4.76 billion in the first 3 months of the year, owing to rising operating costs added it would buy back $2 billion worth of stock. It also said revenue rose 6% to $13.7 billion in the period as it benefits from an improving global economy and rising interest rates. The upbeat January-March results follow a strong 2017, which was boosted by a recovery that saw it lay off tens of thousands of staff since 2015 as part of a wide-ranging overhaul. The improving global economy has led central banks around the world to either lift borrowing costs or at least consider lifting them as the decade of post-crisis easy money comes to an end. Leading the way is the Federal Reserve, which analysts expect to announce at least 2 more hikes this year, helping lenders. Demand for kimono, the elaborate, elegant centerpiece of the Japanese wardrobe, is in decline, but a handful of artisans and entrepreneurs are trying to revive it. Here's more.
The art of precision. Yuichi Hirose is keeping an ancient Japanese craft alive. Using meticulously hand-cut stencils, he is dyeing fabrics used to make the country's emblematic item of clothing, the kimono.
The kimono has become something that is very far removed from our daily lives, and very few people wear them on a daily basis.
Once a standard of the Japanese wardrobe, kimonos are now reserved for special occasions, such as weddings and coming-of-age ceremonies. Made with natural silk and painted by hand, traditional kimonos are extremely expensive, sometimes running to several thousand euros.
The kimono industry has refused to cut its prices and has stubbornly carried on making expensive classic kimonos from silk.
Over the past 40 years, the market has shrunk 7-fold. To survive, some manufacturers have now begun using cheaper and more easily washable materials such as linen, polyester, or cotton. Designer Jotaro Saito has even experimented with denim, jersey, and wool. His aim is to get the kimono out onto the street.
We need to make kimonos that are really part of people's wardrobe, an outfit in which they can express themselves.
The kimono today is also getting something of a new lease of life from tourists keen to immerse themselves in Japanese culture, but only for a few hours at a time.
NASA is poised to launch its first lander to Mars since 2012, an unmanned spacecraft called InSight that aims to listen for quakes and unravel the mystery of how rocky planets like Earth form. Here's more.
You have the solar arrays, you have the lander legs, all as it will be on the surface. I'm going to explain in just a minute about how this is on the rocket right now, but before so you can see we're coming in very hot, literally. We use this aeroshell to take the heat off. We're still going at supersonic speeds when we pop out the parachute. That slows us down even more. Once we get down to a good speed, we drop off that heat shield. You can see the exposed spacecraft there, and then we start acquiring the ground with our radar. That's telling us what our velocity is. When we get down to the right velocity, we let go, and actually this spacecraft free falls for a while. Then it uses the retro rockets to slow it down to 5 miles an hour with the legs popped out in this configuration.
Test to make sure we can survive the rigors, the thermal extremes. Jim talked about the big swings from night to day. This video here is obviously the solar arrays being deployed. One of the first things we do after we touch down about 15 minutes later is deploy the 2 solar arrays. And so you can see this was the final test we did in Denver before packing up the arrays and stowing them.
The basic idea of InSight is to map out the deep structure of Mars. We don't know very much about what goes on a mile below the surface, much less 2,000 miles below the surface down to the center. And this will be the first mission that's going to Mars specifically to investigate the deep inside of Mars. InSight carries a seismometer which measures the seismic waves that have traveled through Mars from Mars quakes and maps out the deep interior structure of Mars.
We're going to also have a heat flow and physical properties probe, which will penetrate into the Mars surface about 5 meters or 16 feet to take the temperature of Mars.
InSight will be the first mission to pick instruments up off the deck of the lander and place them on the surface of Mars. The seismometer needs to be installed in one place and basically not move in order to get the best seismic flow probe, HP cubed. It also needs to sit in one place, take a while to hammer itself down into the ground, and acquire the thermal measurements over a long period of time.
We'll be back with more news right after this break.
Health is our most important asset, and it should always be a constant effort to seek ways to take care of it. That includes professional medical help from the best available. The Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated is known as one of the most specialized centers in medical services, backed by several experienced physicians in Chinese medicine. At an accuracy rate of 98%, countless patients who visited Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated have already been treated and cured.
Marami po ospital na napuntahan, pero wala rin nangyayari. Somebody introduced me to Manila Beijing Medical Associated. After 2 treatments, gumanda ang pakiramdam ko.
My friends introduced me Manila Beijing Medical Associated, and luckily, I got cured. So I sincerely want to thank the doctors of Manila Beijing Medical Associated.
For the past 30 years, ang dami ko nang na-take na mga gamot. Nothing happened to me. So until one my friend introduced me to Manila Beijing Medical Associated, you know what? All my illness was cured.
For any health problems or incurable diseases, you can visit Manila Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated, located at 843B Sabino Padilla Street, Binondo, Manila.
Tungkulin ng MTRCB ang mag-provide na appropriate ratings sa lahat ng TV shows. Para ugaliin ng pamilya ang responsableng pananood. Teamwork tayo, parents!
Rated G, good for all. Oops, rated PG.
Dapat may mga magulang para sagutin ang mga tanong ng kabataan.
Grabe, rated SPG, maselan!
Higpitan ang paggabay.
Pag rated MTRCB, rated responsable.
Letters and Music, Lunes hanggang Biyernes, 1:00 hanggang 2:00 ng hapon.
We're still following this developing story from Hawaii. Earlier, we reported that the U.S. state of Hawaii's Kilauea volcano erupted, causing lava to spew out of ground fissures in residential areas and prompting thousands of people to flee. Local news footage showed streams of lava snaking through a forest, and the Hawaii County Civil Defense Agency reported steam and lava emissions from a crack in Lailani subdivision in the area of Mohala Street following the blast. Here are some reactions from residents there. Take a look.
We had to evacuate my mother without any portable oxygen, so that's the first concern. She's 88 years old, doesn't get along very well. But, you know, since it's right there behind our house, we could hear the lava exploding right from the house. And so, you know, is the house going to still be there when we go back over there? It might be. The lava's flowing downhill and we're uphill, but, you know, it's going to be changing the scenery for sure. Oh yeah, well my neighbor came running over and he says, "What is that awful noise?" And he said, "I never heard a noise like that." And he's been here for 40 years.
And then that's when you realized that was
Yeah,
the eruption.
yeah. And then so we started checking it out, and then somebody else stopped and said, "Hey, that's right there. It's flowing now. You need to get out." So.
And how much time did you have?
None. I told my mother this morning to pack a bag just in case, a go bag, and I ran in, I grabbed the dogs, threw them in a crate, put them in the car, went in my room, just grabbed up an armload of clothes, and here we are. So, yeah. And we moved from California to get away from forest fires.
We have 2 separate shelters set up right now. We have one shelter set up for pets at our gym. People can stay with their pets throughout the night. We have another shelter set up inside. We're going to have cots. We're going to have everything set up for them. And then we also have another shelter set up in our senior center. So we can handle everybody that comes through here. We also have another facility.
Theodoline Baisa takes us to the Stobek Falls, one of the highest free-falling waterfalls in Europe. Take a look.
Care for some Mediterranean atmosphere between mountains and lakes? Welcome to the Swiss-Italian city of Lugano.
Located in the Ticino canton south of Switzerland, Lugano is a captivating city, and here's why. As you step out of the main train station, let the view give you a hint of what to expect from this Italian-speaking city and its mild temperatures. In the old town, make your senses travel from the sight of architectural buildings by getting lost in its many alleys and squares, discovering hidden terraced gardens, and climbing its many stairs to capture the beauty of the city in different angles. When you get to the lakeside, well, you won't have any other wish but to sit on its many benches, go for a stroll, or try some of its water activities. From there, head to one of its many museums and parks and hope for time to stay still for a while. But for a truly breathtaking view, take one of the city's funiculars to the tip of any of its mountains, like Montebre, and let nature speak to you. If you hike on your way down, you will see more of its well-kept villages and have more time to enjoy the unforgettable spectacle in front of you.
If you want the feel of the South during your trip to Switzerland, try Lugano. I'm Christine Benedicto, 1 with 25.
Here's Ben Bernaldez for sports news.
LeBron James scored 43 points as the Cleveland Cavaliers powered to a 128-110 victory over the Toronto Raptors on Thursday to strengthen their grip on their NBA Eastern Conference playoff series. The Cavaliers, who broke Raptors' heart with a 113-112 overtime triumph on Tuesday, may well have been broken their spirit as they won a second straight game at Air Canada Centre to take a commanding 2-0 lead in the best-of-7 second-round series that shifts to Cleveland on Saturday. James passed Elgin Baylor for 8th all-time with his 104th playoff double-double. This was his 23rd playoff game with at least 40 points and his 4th so far this postseason. Kevin Love added 31 points and 11 rebounds for the Cavs. J.R. Smith scored 15, George Hill chipped in 13, and Jeff Green came off the bench to contribute as the Cavs extended their postseason dominance of the Raptors. Cleveland had eliminated Toronto from the playoffs in each of the past 2 seasons, including a sweep in the second round last year. The Raptors, seeded first in the East for the first time, thought things would be different this season. But the Cavs, trailing by 2 at halftime, eviscerated the Raptors in the third quarter, opening the second half on a 8-0 scoring run to seize a lead they wouldn't relinquish. James and Love combined for 24 of Cleveland's 37 points in the period, matching Toronto's third quarter total. DeMar DeRozan paced the Raptors and Kyle Lowry added 21, but Lowry was in foul trouble early in the third quarter, and the Raptors' 11 turnovers, leading to 13 points, were costly, especially in comparison to Cleveland's 3 turnovers. Meanwhile, the Boston Celtics roared back from a 22-point deficit to beat the Philadelphia 76ers 108-103 on Thursday and take a 2-0 lead in their NBA Eastern Conference playoff series. Jason Tatum scored 21 points to lead 6 Boston players in double figures as the Celtics remain unbeaten on their home floor in these playoffs. They'll try to extend their advantage when their series shifts to Philadelphia for the games 3 and 4 on Saturday and Monday. Boston, the club with the most NBA titles, has battled into the Eastern Conference semifinals despite injury absence of Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, and Daniel Theis. Rookie Jaylen Brown, who has been in and out of action with a hamstring injury, came off the bench on Thursday and scored 13 points, contributing to a remarkable turnaround. After squandering their big second quarter lead, the 76ers steadied, briefly edging back ahead in the fourth quarter. But the Celtics produced an 11-4 scoring run to regain the lead with less than 4 minutes to play and held on against a Sixers team led by J.J. Redick 23 points. Robert Covington scored 22 and Joel Embiid added 20, but Sixers star rookie Ben Simmons was held to just 1 point in 31 minutes, missing all 4 of his shots from the field. Undefeated, Gennady Golovkin defends his 3 major world middleweight titles against Phil Info Baines Matyriosan on Saturday, with boxing history and a possible rematch with Canelo Alvarez on the line. Triple G tries to stretch his reign, which began in 2010, to top 20 fights and equal Bernard Hopkins of the longest title run in middleweight history when he faces Armenian-born American Matyriosan. Golovkin was set for a Las Vegas pay-per-view showdown on the Mexican Cinco de Mayo holiday against Alvarez, a rematch of their thrilling draw last September. But the Mexican tested positive for the banned substance clenbuterol and dropped out of the bout 4 weeks ago. Alvarez is banned until August but hopes to fight again on September 16, another Mexican holiday, and maybe against Golovkin. Asked about fighting Alvarez next, if he retains his title Saturday, Golovkin said, "Maybe, why not? I want activity." If not Alvarez, then British southpaw Billy Joe Saunders, whose World Boxing Organization middleweight crown is in the only one not held by Golovkin, and Ukraine's Sergey Derevyachenko, Golovkin's mandatory next International Boxing Federation challenger, would be likely next rivals. But Golovkin, 36, made it clear he wants to break the record championship middleweight run, saying, "Next fight I'm looking in the middleweight division. It's best for boxing and for us." Golovkin, 37-0 with 1 draw and 33 knockouts, surrenders a height and reach advantage to the light middleweight contender who is moving up in class. For EN Sports, I'm Ben Bernaldez and I'm 1 with 25.
Thanks, Ben. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards and Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us. And I'm 1 with 25.